Hi everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. So it's just going to be a really quick video. I just wanted to talk about my thoughts with regards to DeepSeek and how that is probably just the very existence of DeepSeek is probably the best thing that could have happened for the African continent, right? And how I understand it, or the way I've really come to think about it, is through Jevons phenomenon. And it was something I heard and I sort of like we looked into. And is this idea that increased efficiency of a technology leads to more usage, right? Which at the end of the day reduces, overall savings of the efficiency, but that's a different conversation. But what it's really saying is that the fact when a technology becomes more efficient, it means more people are able to use it. So the increased just use of that technology and the resources it takes to run the technology increases. And a good example of this, or rather the best first example of this, was the coal steam engine. So over in the West, when the coal steam engines became this huge technology, at first only big companies could use them because they were the only ones who could afford them, because at the time it used a lot of coal. But now an upgrade came and people were able to make it more efficient, meaning it used less coal. So it was relatively more affordable, cheaper than the previous model. Now, the fact that it was more efficient meant that more people could use it because now it was more affordable. So smaller businesses, smaller companies could buy steam engines and use them in their businesses. And that, that makes sense, right? So why does that matter with regards to Africa? So I was reading Carnegie's newsletter, well, an opinion piece, and I'll link it in the comment section. But it was talking about, and it is talking about what we're talking about, the fact that DeepSeek used about $5.6 million, and that is to be debated. Not talking about whether that's true or not, but the fact that the idea that it cost just $5.6 million to create DeepSeek, which is comparable, at least in some of these features, to ChatGPT 4, which cost upwards of $100 million, right? And you're thinking about that, and what we're hearing now is the fact that DeepSeek is so efficient that it uses less resources, meaning that more companies can use it or create models like it because of this new upgrade, right? What does that mean for Africa? So before we've been thinking that to create the ChatGPTs, or to really develop the AI sphere in Africa would require a lot of investments, particularly more focused on big companies or more proven researchers. But now what we're hearing is that we don't need that much money, right? We don't need to raise that much funds. With just a little bit, like the DeepSeek team, we can create something just like the DeepSeek or better with little resources that is more efficient. And because it's more efficient, more people can use it, right? And what does that mean? It means that the average African has the possibility now, because we are now able to create more efficient AI models. They have the opportunity to be able to use that in their local businesses. They have the opportunity to be able to use that in their educational spaces. And they don't have to be ridiculously rich to do that. And I think that's just amazing to me, just the fact that we are now getting to this point where AI can become cheaper to build. And for a continent that is relatively under-resourced, that is great news for us. But while it is great news, it doesn't mean that, we're saved, because it still takes a lot to actually do that, right? It still takes a lot to actually create the AI infrastructure that will lead to the situation where the average African can access AI. And when I say average African, I mean every African for the most part can access it and use it in their local ventures, etc. And why is that still a problem? It's because of the stats, right? And the stats matter. As of 2023, only 30% of the African population use mobile internet. 59% were covered by 3G and 4G networks, but they weren't using it, mostly due to cost, mostly due to limitations on their devices, due to low digital literacy. 15% still have no access to internet, which is the world's largest coverage gap, right? And then we have the 4G and 5G adoption rates. Those are slow. Apologies. Just 31% of mobile connections were on 4G and 1% was on 5G. By 2030, what we're seeing is that only 50% are projected to be on 4G and 17% on 5G. So we are way behind the world in terms of our internet usage, which is the means through which you can access these models. And what does it mean for AI? It just means that there are significant infrastructure gaps that, even if we were able to make more efficient, cheaper models that can address the problems on the African continent, we don't have the infrastructure to get those solutions into the hands of the actual Africans that need them. If people cannot afford data, if they don't have access to devices, good, capable devices, or they lack digital skills, AI can't reach them no matter how powerful, no matter how efficient, no matter how cheap it is. And that really, at the end of the day, is the crux of the problem. So, again, DeepSeek, the idea of DeepSeek, I've been thinking about it, really makes me happy that we are in a position where we can build better models for cheaper, and more businesses on the continent have the ability now to be able to invest in AI and not have it hurt their bank significantly. But we still have hard problems, which are not insurmountable. They are surmountable. It's going to take a level of vision and policy on the side of our governments. There's going to be a lot of heavy investment into data coverage, into digital literacy education, which is happening. Like with companies on the private side, we're seeing companies like Google and Microsoft invest in there. We're seeing different governments, taking it seriously. Rwanda, Kenya, Nigeria, which recently had their 3MM skills upskilling project, where they're training millions of Nigerians on digital literacy skills, and other AI skills as well, which is great. But we have a lot to cover. So again, great news. We can create more efficient models. So we can't be left behind. We have an opportunity not to be left behind in this fourth industrial revolution, but that's going to take a lot of investments in our infrastructure levels to get us to the point where most Africans on the continent can actually use it to change their world. So thank you for listening. I really appreciate your time always. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions or if there are any conversations you'd like us to touch on. Always happy to fill them. I'll put my email there if you want to send me a short email as well. So that's it. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you for the next video.